كفاية عبد الرحمن انت تدينا تكنيكات، خليني اسمع التكنيكات من شخص ثاني لو سمحت. فهذا اللي سويته في احد الايفنتات وورش العمل اللايف اللي كانت موجودة، وجبت مختبر رسمي سابق للايلتس وسألته ايش تكنيكات، ايش بالنسبة لك، ايش هي حاجات حتأثر في مستوى الشخص في اختبار الايلتس. فهو جاوب تكنيكات ايوه، ما فيها تكنيكة حاد وقوالب ما اتوقع، هي حاجات مختلفة وقوية جدا وبالانجلش، فحتساعدك تطور الانجلش عندك كمان. let's jump into it.
الشيء اللي انا انجزته في 3 شهور و3 سنوات يمديك تنجزه في اقل من كذا بكثير.
Hi Craig, how are you? Craig, can you unmute yourself? I think the audience will be able to see you right now.
Hello, Mr. Abdulrahman. How are you?
Hi, how are you doing? How are you doing? We're super excited in having you here. Thank you so much for being here. Most welcome. So basically, we're super excited. I'm sorry for interruption, but we're super excited on hearing from your experience as an examiner, previous examiner. What are the points that the students need to focus on, or I would call it the 3 strategies from your end that would make a student get a better score when they're giving IELTS. So
yeah,
I'll
sure.
leave the stage for you.
Okay, thank you for having me. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about my own experience working with IELTS candidates in Saudi Arabia and other Middle Eastern countries. And I've worked with all IELTS candidates of all different levels, ages and aspirations. I've examined students as young as 16 who did really well, and as old as 65, no comment. And I've become used to seeing the same students like every 3 months trying to get that 6.5. So it's really my pleasure to chat to you today about some of the things that I've noticed about IELTS candidates, especially those in the Middle East. And I'm going to talk about balance, about practice, and about booking your exam early.
So let's get started with the first point, which is the balance. Yeah, let's go ahead.
Yeah,
right.
So strategy 4 is making a balance between sections. So what do I mean by balance? Well, what I mean here is that many teachers will tell you, and is that learning English is really an integrated or holistic activity. Dividing English or even an IELTS score into listening, speaking, reading and writing is really a little arbitrary. So like, what about grammar? That's important. And vocabulary. You know, why not have a vocabulary score and a grammar score? And it might just be a historical thing, or there might be sound logic, but every teacher in the world will tell you it's nearly impossible to just study speaking or just study writing without the other skills playing a part. So getting the score you need in IELTS isn't about getting a good listening score or a good speaking score. It's not about having good productive skills or good receptive skills. It's about all the things together.
I can't agree more. That makes a lot of sense, to be honest, because yeah, that's one of the mistakes. So students think that they're weak at writing, so that means they're going to only focus on IELTS and writing, and that doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Right. This is something I hear a lot. People say, I'm weak in reading and strong in speaking, so I'll concentrate on speaking and ignore reading. And then they get the results: reading 3, speaking 7, listening 5.5, writing 5, overall 5. And they say, but I got a 7 in speaking. No. So I recommend that you spend equal times on each section. Here it says that you should spend a week on listening and then a week on reading, etc. But I should imagine this would get quite boring. So it's better, in my opinion, to maybe spend an hour on each, rotate every hour. I know that some of you will find writing difficult or listening boring or speaking easy. And so there will be a tendency to only practice what you're good at and neglect the others. But please don't do that. You know, reading and speaking, they're all very closely related. So if you read a lot, you improve your vocabulary, which in turn improves your speaking score. If you practice speaking, it helps you learn the rhythm and stresses of English, which in turn informs the organization of your writing. So all of these things are like the ingredients in a cake. You need to concentrate on all of them and ignore any of them at your peril.
100%. It sounds very challenging at first, but if you think about it, if you divide it, as you mentioned, maybe per hour or per week, that wouldn't be hard. Just things that you love, just spend as much time as the things that are hard and then you hate. Would it be okay, Craig, if I go ahead and do a quick summary for the students who are not really getting everything? All right. Awesome. Thank you, Craig. So guys, الفكرة هنا كريج اللي قاعد يقوله انت سيء في الكتابة كويس في الباقيين خلاص نركز على الكتابة ونخبص على الباقيين. الإجابة لا. يقول لك حرفيا شفت أكثر من مرة إنه أنا كويس في السبيكينج خليني أو أنا ضعيف في السبيكينج خليني أركز على السبيكينج وجبت 7 في السبيكينج و5 و3 في الأقسام الثانية والأوفرال بيكون 5. يقول طب كيف أنا جبت 5 مع إني كنت 7؟ الإجابة لأنك ما وازنتهم صح. أنت عليك توازن الأقسام وتركز الاثنين والثلاثة وأربع أقسام مع بعض. القسم اللي تحبه تعطي نفس الوقت للقسم اللي تكرهه. القسم اللي تحبه نقطة قوتك استغلها. القسم اللي تكرهه وضعيف فيه نقطة ضعفك عوض فيها فتعطي نفس الوقت. and that's the best way to balance it out. لما تعطي تحقد على مهارة نسميها حتخبص وحتلخبط باختصار. هذه خلاصة الاستراتيجية رقم 4 اللي كريغ حاول يوصلها لكم. Thank you, Craig. I think it's a good time if we go ahead with strategy 5. Do you think so? Ready? All right. Okay. So strategy 5. Yeah.
Strategy 5 is practice and review. Now, every teacher in the world will tell you you need to practice, you need to review. And you will ask every teacher in the world, teacher, how can I improve my English? And the teacher will say, practice. And you ask, how can I reach IELTS band 7? And he'll say, practice. And it's not just English. How can I become a great musician? Practice. How can I become a great writer? Practice. How can I get better at writing C++ code? Yes, practice. So it's easy to say, and it's very easy for a teacher to say, just practice, practice, practice. But if a teacher says this to you, ask him back, how do I practice? Well, and oddly, it doesn't really matter all that much. The things you are best at are the things you do every day. So did you ever wonder how you got to be so good at brushing your teeth or making tea or putting your clothes on? English and IELTS is really no different. It's all about practicing. So
100% makes a lot of sense, definitely. So yeah, how can we do it in IELTS? more strategically, yeah.
Yeah, so there are a few things that's worth remembering. So the first thing to bear in mind is my own anecdote when I first became an examiner and I did some training. They were a group of experienced teachers in Shanghai. We didn't have any knowledge of IELTS. We were all native speakers and teachers, and they asked us to do the writing test. So they gave us an hour, they gave us the task 1 and the task 2 and said, go for it. And I remember my absolute terror. I thought, what? 2 essays in 1 hour? What? And needless to say, none of us got level 9. I got 6.5. Oh. The highest score was a lady from the Ukraine who wasn't even a native speaker. But then 2 days later, after doing lots of examples and looking at the marking scheme, I managed to get a 9. But I had to argue with the examiner quite strongly. So this can't be stressed enough. You know, this is why people take IELTS 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. It's because the more you practice, the better you get at it. And, you know, knowledge of English just isn't enough. You need to know the test. So this is the first point, practice tests. Take practice tests and pay special attention to feedback. Look at the band descriptors. Things like is willing to speak at length and may lose coherence at times due to repetition or hesitation. This is constructive. You can learn from this. You can say, I'm good at speaking and I'm fluent, but I tend to repeat myself or hesitate. But that's something you can work on and change. And any good instructor will give you positive feedback and feedback that can make a difference. So listen to them and listen to what IELTS needs. So real tests, it's all very well saying any practice is worthwhile and you'd be right. But it's much more important to actually practice IELTS. So being good at IELTS is a skill in itself. So practicing with an English or an American friend over coffee is fine. But actually doing a real IELTS speaking test with real IELTS questions, getting real feedback is much more useful. And this will mean you're not wasting your time. So especially,
I'm sorry for interrupting here, Craig, but yeah, the thing is, when you face the real exam, because it's sometimes a bit different than the real life. Because in real life, there's two, like, it's a dialogue. It's not a monologue. It's similar to part two in speaking, talking directly, like for 1 minute continuously. That's rarely happening in a normal day-to-day experience. It's similar to writing. You have to write 404 pages, which is 400 words in an hour, as we mentioned, was super hard at first. So yeah, taking it in real should give much better results.
Yes, I mean, this is why you often see English advertised. You see English for medical purposes, English for business purposes, and English for IELTS purposes is a very specific type of English. So, you know, some people say take 7 tests. It sounds like a lot, but one of my students from Japan took IELTS 13 times. And
I have seen 17. I have seen 17 and 25 as well. Yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy. It's true. Right.
But he finally got his 7.5 and he's off to Australia as soon as the pandemic ends, of course. So that's good news for him. So yeah, review your mistakes. So, you know, I'm very guilty of not doing this. If I get a bad grade, I just don't want to think about it. But if you look at the feedback, this is a really good way to improve. If it's speaking, record yourself. Record yourself speaking, then you can be your own critic. And we know how easy it is to mix up tenses or verbs or word order when you're speaking. Native speakers do it all the time. If I were to record myself and listen to myself, I would be appalled. I keep saying, oh, like, you know, well, you know, it's like, and if you listen to yourself, you can really pick up on these things. And unfortunately, IELTS examiners are paid to notice these things. So when you have a practice IELTS test, we will notice and we will tell you. And another thing to know is, do not just speak in your head, speak out loud. Get your brother or your sister or your dad to listen to you, to time you to speaking for 2 minutes. And then when you listen to yourself, you'll hear the way you speak and you'll think, oh, it's awful, oh no. And it's not just because we hate the sound of our own voice, but those hesitations and that fluffed past tense and, did I really just say, my father likes 4 watch TV? I know it's my father likes 2 watch TV. So it may be really discouraging to get a 4.5 in a test, in a practice test, but you have to see this as a good thing. There's room for improvement. Becoming good at anything, making mistakes, and identifying your areas for improvement is the first step in getting better. It can be a hard thing to do and it can be painful, but it can be really upsetting as well. Yeah. But just think of all the things you can do better. So just try to be positive. Think, cool, I can change this. Yeah, that does sound better.
Right. That would be, yeah, just hearing yourself, it's kind of a straight, it is very tough, to be honest. When I listened to myself, I really hated myself and stopped doing it. But it's a very good feedback because, yeah, as you mentioned, that you learn a lot. It's not just about being embarrassed. It's about the learnings that you get. Or I'm saying too much, or I'm using the word very too much. There gives a feedback. Also, the point that I might just notice here is that similar to speaking, for example, reading. So I'm doing a reading test. Do you think when I'm finished with reading, let's suppose I've got 6, do you think that how reviewing my mistakes would improve my score?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, knowing what mistakes you made is an invaluable feedback in any form of life. You know, those computer scientists among you will know about reinforcement learning, about if you do something and it has a low reward or negative reward, the machine knows not to do it again. So every test you take and every feedback you get, as long as you listen to it and act upon it, should result in you improving. That's the plan anyway. Yeah.
Right. That's definitely. Oh, thank you, Craig. Let me just go ahead and put some kind of quick Arabic summary here. Guys, ايش بكم كده ما انتم فاهمين؟ اللي منكم ما هو فاهم يكتب في التعليقات ويشتت. فالخلاصة هنا ترى حتوصلوا يعني كلام سريع. Craig, I'm just pointing out on a part that a lot of people are saying, I don't understand anything from what Craig is saying. You know, to be honest, it's something I didn't share with you, but one of my first encounters with IELTS was in a course in one of the esteemed course, institute. So went there and I was literally sitting at the corner and I didn't understand anything. I was just hardly understanding the question, saying, the teacher saying, just open your test books. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then he was solve it and I was like, true, false, true, false, true, false. And I was just putting random words on fill in the words and I was just putting them there. So yeah, just let me just point it out for others. جايز انا حرفيا الخلاصه اللي كانت قصه، انا حرفيا اتذكر نفس السنه وكلك موجود وتعليقاتك موجوده، انا اتذكر نفس يعني الخيال جاي بذكرني باول مره دخلت دوره ايلتس بالغلط، اللي ما حتكلم عليها كثير، لكن كنت ابغى ادخل دوره تطوير لغه والدوره كانت مقفله، دخلت دوره ايلتس. المدرس حرفيا انا كنت زيكم اللي منكم ماني فاهم شيء، زي كانه كده جالس مزهريه وانا بس بتفرج عليه. الشيء الوحيد اللي فهمته قال افتح الكتاب حق الاختبار، فتحت قال طب يلا ابدا اختبره. ترو فاس، جيم صح جيم صح، الف، اختار اي حاجه وارمي كلمات عشوائيه، ودرجتي كانت في البدايه 2.5، وهذه كانت مبسوط بال2.5 اصلا طلعت صح اصلا. فوضعك حيكون سيء. مره ثانيه اذكر نفسك بالكلام اللي فوق، التكنيكات اللي انت دحين شفتها فوق، الكلام اللي حتكلم في ساعه التطوير حرفيا حتوصلك لمستوى هذا مستوى بسيط، انا اسميه هذا مستوى متوسط، انك تقدر تفهم المختبر ايش قاعد يقول او الشخص اللي قدامك ايش قاعد يقول بالانجليزي. ذاتس جست ما هو بعيد، ما هو ب6 أشهر. احنا المشكله نتصور انه انا درست 12 سنه مناهج انجليزيه وما تطورت، هذا معناه انه انت عندك مشكله، انك انت يعني معناه انه انت عليك تركز بشكل اكبر على انك تطور لغتك. وهذا الموضوع ما هو صعب، ساعه تطوير في شهر شهرين حتعطيك نتائج مره مو طبيعيه. That's the first point. طيب الخص مره ثانيه دحين كلام كريغ اللي قاله في هذه الجزئيه، قال لك اختبر، التدرب هو اكبر جزء واكثر جزء مهم. حلو. فلما تتدرب ايش اول بوينت لما تتدرب؟ رقم 1 التدرب دائما حيساعدك انك تعرف كيف تمشي تكنيكات. دائما اعطيت لكم مثال انه تخيل انك بتسوق الدراجه اول مره، هل بدك تسوقها اصلا كويس؟ حتطيح 15 مره، حتعود نفسك. انا كسرت ضفري لما كنت صغير، فحتحتاج في البدايه انك تفهم كيف التكنيكات تمشي. في الاختبار مره ومرتين مهمه. ولما تتدرب لا تتدرب تقول انا بتدرب كتاب قاعد اكتب، لا، لازم تتدرب على الاختبارات التجريبيه اللي هو second point، انك تتدرب على اختبارات تجريبيه which are the real tests، انك تعيش في نفس جو الاختبار. وهذه ترى موجوده الايلتس، بقيه اختبارات ما هي موجوده، لكن عندك اللي هي زي اختبارات حرفيا رسميه بالضبط زي اختبار، شكل اختبار، فبتعلمك كثير. اخر حاجه على السريع بقول لك 7 اختبارات تجريبيه حاول تاخذهم. يعني هو عدد كبير تحسوا 7 واو ذاتس تو ماتش، لكن فكره انه هذه 7 اختبارات تجريبيه ذاتس عباره عن حتوفر لك كثير، حتوفر لك 7 اختبارات حقيقيه تدفع وتختبر هناك. تدرب. واخر حاجه زي ما قلت لك انه تسجل صوتك، ممكن تسمع نفسك. هذا رايي انا. ممكن هنا اقول ما يحتاج تجلد نفسك كذا كثير. وانا مثلا ممكن اقول فكره انك تسمع نفسك جزء اضافي، لكن هذا كريك قاعد يقول انه فعلا بيساعد. I truly agree، لكن حاجه شويه صعبه. لكن بنفس الوقت ايوه اتدرب في القراءه واعرف اخطائك وتعلم منها، لانه لما سويت خطا مستحيل تعيد نفس الخطا بالضبط زي ما هو، فانت دائما تتعلم. فبعض الناس يروح يختبر 17 اختبار يقول نفسك ياي انا اختبرت بتوقع اني حجيب 8. No, that's not going to happen. Got it? فايوه جايز هذا بالنسبه لي التكنيكه الخامسه اللي كان اقرا قبل شويه. نيجي واضحين الحين؟ وضحت بس عشان اتاكد اللي فترى التكنيك اللي بعد اركز معاه وركز على كريج انه ايش اللي حيقوله، بحيث انه انه تعرف الكلام اللي حيقوله هذا حرفيا، وحترجم لك هو تعرف قد ايش انا فهمت وقد ايش عبد الرحمن قال لي هو، فحيساعدك كمان انك تستوعب وبنفس الوقت تتطور وتمارس الانجليش واحنا في نفس الماستر كلاس. على فكره انا نقطه ممكن نسيتها. Craig, it's something I've forgot to ask you, to be honest. I was supposed to ask you in the beginning is in which countries did you examine students? So you mentioned China, and did you examine students in Saudi Arabia?
No, I used to do IELTS preparation classes in Saudi Arabia, but I was never an examiner in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, so you've seen us, you've seen what are our problems and mistakes and issues.
Yes, and it's very interesting to see the differences that Arabic native speakers have compared to East Asian native speakers. I think I was saying to you earlier that Arabic people tend to score better in speaking than in writing. Whereas in
we're horrible. I'm horrible at writing, so I think a lot of our students, that's true. They're a bit off. They're better at speaking, but a bit off in writing. That's correct. All right. So
sorry, no, carry on.
Yeah. let's go ahead with the strategy 6. Let's do it.
Sure.
All right.
So moves on to the last strategy, which is book your test. And the last piece of advice I would give is not just book your test, but book your test early. Okay. So by early, I mean, don't book it for this week. Book it for 1 or 2 months.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You know, since I've been doing practice tests, I hear a lot of people say, you know, oh, I did a practice test with Dalil today, and the tutor told me I should practice part 2 questions and work on using the past tense. That sounds great. So when is your test? Tomorrow. Not much chance to improve very much. But a deadline, having a deadline really helps. So everybody here has been a student, and you know that if you have a test and you know that your test is next month, then this is the kind of incentive you need to make you practice effectively. If it's next year, you sort of think, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, do it next week.
Or even worse, if it's not booked yet. Yeah, if you haven't booked it, you're just, we can do it anytime.
Yeah. If it's there on your calendar, you know, for, you know, next month, it's there, you see it every morning, and it can be really like a spur for you to think, okay, right, I'm going to do an hour reading, an hour writing, an hour speaking, an hour listening today, just 4 hours. You know, and it gets you started and it gets you moving. So, you know, book it today, but not for tomorrow. So 1 or 2 months in advance, maybe. And yeah, so 1 or 2 months in advance. So another important thing is that you should check the terms and conditions for IDP or the British Council, who you're probably taking the test with. And in a lot of cases, if you give enough notice, they will allow you to reschedule. So if you book your test for 2 months and your score isn't getting better, you don't feel like you're making any progress, or something happened, some problem, an accident, and things go wrong, if you call them, maybe you could push your test back for another month, you can reschedule. And you know, if you just don't feel that you've improved enough, you know, maybe, I'm not really sure how it works, but I'm told that they might be flexible with rescheduling.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's true. To be honest, that's true, especially when the students book through us. خلال تسجيل مخفض. A lot of students would, to be honest, we're more flexible with rescheduling with them. It's something I've seen recently. But yeah, again, terms and conditions changed. It's better that they check with the whatever they're booked with and confirm with them. All right, so Craig, I'm going to just summarize this. طيب، استراتيجية رقم 6، تكنيك رقم 6، انت حتأجل الموضوع، ما عمرك ما حتسوي. فكرة مين من اصلا يقول انا عندي ان شاء الله مذاكرة بعد 6 أشهر خليني اذاكر، وعندي تبدأ مذاكرة الجامعة، نادر ما شاء الله، في 10% من الناس اللي حيذاكروا كل يوم ويكرفوا. لكن إن انت عارف عندك اختبار بعد شهر وعندك ديدلاين واضح جدا، بدفك، مو بدفك، بجريك كمان انه ابغى احققها، I want to do it. فلما انك تحجز اختبارك اليوم، دقيقه قاعد اقول لك مو بكره، اقول لك اليوم، حلو، تحجز قدام، مو فكرك قاعد يقول don't book it for tomorrow، لا تحجز اختبارك بكره او بعد اسبوع. انه عندي اختبار بختبر، زي ما قلت لكم في البدايه، هذا ما هو اختبار نص الترم تحفظ حاجه بريالين في يوم واحد يومين تروح تختبر. you need to work for it، وترى النتائج is gonna pay off، حتعطيك نتائج رهيبه. الفرص هذه كلها حتكون قدامك. فاحجز اختبارك بدري، حيدفك، حيساعدك لاغلب الناس، 90% من الناس. اول جزء، طيب اول حاجه طبعا جزء تحفيز، الديدلاين هنا عشان يساعدك ويدفك. رقم 2، خذ وقت، احجز، لا تحجز 6 أشهر قدام ولا تحجز اسبوع. دائما الافضل تحجز شهر لشهرين 3 أشهر. يعني الشخص السيء منكم مستواه سيء، اللي قلت له ترى فدحين تلاحظت، تذكروا انه قلت لكم الناس اللي قلت لهم تطور لغتك وانسى الايلتس شويتين وبعد شهرين ابدا بالايلتس، هذول الناس ايوه ممكن ما تحجز دحين. لكن الفئه رقم 2 و3 قلت لك عندك لازم تذاكر ايلتس، ابدا دحين، او انك تطور لغتك وتبدا، احجز اختبارك بعد شهرين 3 أشهر بالكثير. رايت. اخر جزئيه انه يمديك تتجدول. يعني فكره راحت الفلوس، دفعت الفلوس خلاص، لا، هو في طرق كثيره ان يمديك تاجل اختبارك، لكن ما ينفع تقول لهم قبل يومين ترى ماني جاهز باجل، ما حينفع. فتحديدا تسجيل مخفض في it's a bit more flexible. اذا كلمنا حاول تتواصل معاهم، الفريق يحاول يتواصل معاهم. وعلى فكره تسجيل مخفض ان شاء الله حيبدا كنت مشغول شويه، حيبدا مره قريب ان شاء الله. بكره حيبدا تسجيل مخفض، اللي هو باختصار انه بقدم خدمه مني باختصار، ما بستفيد منها اي ماديا، انك اسجل لك لاختبارك بسعر اقل بكثير من المبلغ اللي تدفعه. ف that's for strategy number 6. وهذه الخلاصه. So Craig, I think that was a huge, amazing insight. Thank you so much for giving us. I know there's a lot more stuff, and thank you so much for being there for our students. كون ترى كريج موجود في الدورة المكثفة كمختبر رسمي سابق مع بيقدم جلسات. So thank you so much for your sessions. And yeah, I think our students might see it later. Yeah.
I can't really read Arabic very fast. I can read a little bit, but occasionally there's things flashing up saying thank you, Craig. So thank you, you're welcome. It's really nice. And hopefully I'll see you all for a nice practice test soon. Thank you. I can't believe how many people are here. It's amazing. So
yeah, it's crazy. 11,200 people. That's the exact figure, which is insane. Right.
And
thank you, Craig. Appreciate it. Most welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a great day.